Hi, my name is Anna Mirabella, and this is my presentation for assignment 4, My Personal Ethos for CMU's Design Ethos in Action course. So I started the presentation by looking at my roles as a designer, student, and a friend. As a designer, I still mainly define myself as an engineer, so I'm driven by logic, analytics, and my intellectual intuition. But as a designer, I'm starting to also start to ask important questions like what are the long-term consequences of what I create, and is it necessary? What's the point of making it? Does it really make the world a better place? So I'm starting to have a bigger understanding of what my role means in the bigger picture. As a student, I've always been really motivated by my intellectual curiosity, passion, the thrill of problem solving, doing well, and the feeling that you get when you do well on something, and also impressing others. And I pretty much know where I stand since I do look good on paper in terms of my grades, but I really need to learn to increase my confidence and seek more challenges to my skills beyond just my academics. And as a friend, I'm extremely loyal. I don't need constant contact, but when people need me, I'm there all the time. I also challenge my friends and support them very well, and I'll honor any commitments that I make to them. So here's a mattering map that has a bunch of different things, and a big part of it is like doing something meaningful with my life and leaving like a legacy, which kind of ties into Clay Routledge's terror management theory. So kind of the idea of even like going through school and not completing something meaningful is really terrifying to me. So I really want to push myself to make a difference somehow. But beyond my personal accomplishments, I also really value things like my family, friends, but also for this presentation, performing well in school and being involved. So I'm going to focus on my activities versus my academics. And I've always thought of myself as a very analytical and academically focused person. To me, I've always said school comes first. But in the past few months, I've gone from very minimally involved in activities to really heavily involved. So it's very much been an area of transition, and there are new tensions that are arising in terms of where I spend my time, what I'm getting out of them, and also my academics sometimes take away from my activities, and my activities take away from my academics. So to look at my past to see how I've handled these situations before, back when I started middle school, I immediately quit my flute lessons and my horseback riding. Both of them I hadn't been doing for a super long time, but I still was somewhat committed, but I didn't really have like a strong ties to the actual activities. I had changed teachers and horseback riding barns, so there wasn't really an emotional attachment to the extracurriculars. And my family always valued academics, and they came very easily to me. So I said that when I quit these, I did it because I wanted to focus on my schoolwork. In my past too, in high school, I played volleyball, but I didn't really have a lot of connections with my team, so I ultimately quit it. And I started doing student government, which I really liked because I got to work with my peers and faculty. It was a positive, supportive environment, and I really felt like I was able to make a difference, even if it was on a small scale level. And then my freshman year, I also joined my robotics team, where I found a really strong community. Even though we spent 3 hours a day together, I loved every minute of it. It really fostered my academics and my problem-solving skills, and even through the really big time commitment, there was always like a understanding that if you needed to step out to do your schoolwork, you still could. There still wasn't really a conflict between the two at that time. Then freshman year, I tried to get involved. I joined the first year advisory board, but I didn't really have a sense of connection with other people in the organization, and our events really didn't have good attendance, so there wasn't really any accomplishments I got out of that. I tried to join the robotics club, but once again, it wasn't very welcoming when I did join, and there was a lot of, there's a really steep learning curve, so it's hard to get into. And when I did research, I didn't feel like I was contributing to meaningful tasks, and I wasn't really given strict deadlines, so there wasn't really a need for me to come back very often, and I didn't really form any connections where I felt accountable for what I was volunteering to do. In my freshman year, I felt really close with my floor. There were 13 of us on my floor who were Mechis, so there was a lot of academic support. So I did have that social community that was really supportive, but also it fostered my academics. So I still put my academics first, and ended up quitting other things, saying that I wanted to focus on school. And then my sophomore year, I joined a few more activities. I joined the campus SAC for my department, and I also joined my sorority, where I always put in a few activities. But I lived in an off-campus apartment, which was really far, so I still used that as an excuse, and I wasn't very connected to the organizations, and I really put my academics first. But this year, as a junior, I've really become a lot more connected within my sorority since I moved into the house, and once I started taking on one position, I kept trying to take on more. Same thing happened within my department. I started to get to know more people the faculty, staff, and even my peers. And as I became a lot more connected with them, I got involved with things like the Mechie Honor Society and continued to stay on the Student Advisory Council. So now there's this rising question of, are academics still always first? So there's the connections with people that are drawing me towards these activities and making it hard for me to say no to things. But then because of them, I'm doing all of these, I'm running out of time in my other things. So here's an example of a schedule. So the blue is my classwork, the yellow is for my sorority, and the purple is my other commitments. So there's really awkward gaps for homework and meals, so it's really hard for me to kind of take care of myself and get all my schoolwork done. And also all these meetings that I have for my sorority tend to get in the way of group meetings. So even on like Wednesday, I was booked from like 9 a.m. until like 9:30 p.m. because of all these activities. So the new conflicts that are arising are time management. I have too little time, awkward links of free time. I find that I'm sacrificing sleep to get everything done, and I have overlapping deadlines for my academics and my extracurriculars. Like during booth season, we had tons of schoolwork due, but also you're expected to pull all-nighters to get our booth done. And then also group versus extracurricular meetings. There's still a lot of scheduling conflicts and knowing which one comes first. My sorority had a national representative visit, and the meetings were scheduled like months in advance. But for one of my academic classes, my group thought that I was slacking because I was always running off to these other meetings. So it's a really hard trade-off to know who I was more accountable to at that point. And also with the roles that I've taken on, I've become more of a role model. So for like the Mechanical Engineering Honor Society, that position itself, I need to do well in school because that's how I got elected and inducted into the society in the first place. And in my sorority, younger girls are looking up to see a role model who's balancing extracurriculars with school, even though it is really hard to do. So in terms of Acrasia, I'm really questioning what it is that I should be doing instead of rather not knowing what to do and not knowing how to do it. So when I look at, do academics still come first? The truth is I still really value my academics and I really want them to be first. But I commit to activities because of the people rather than how much they relate to my academic or career goals. So a lot of the things I'm doing are taking up a lot of time, but may not always be directly tied to the same things that my academics are. My extracurriculars have begun to detract from my academic performance and the time I have to take care of myself, and I also don't have any hobbies related to my academic interests. So there are definitely skills that I'm learning, but nothing that's directly translating to like heat transfer, statics, or things like that. So ideally, I would fulfill my academic and extracurricular commitments at the level that I want, and say no to opportunities when needed if they really aren't worth my time, and get involved in more things directly related to my major. But at this point, that'd be really hard to do since it's putting more on my plate. But realistically, academics don't have to be the #1 priority all the time. In short term, I really need to weigh my decisions. So what's the best for me at this point in terms of how can I handle it on a day-to-day basis, but also looking at, okay, maybe suffering on the day-to-day basis might be worth it in the long term if it's going to get me where I want to go. So where do I go from here? I really need to reevaluate my commitments and how I spend my time, thinking about, are academics really the most important? Am I putting, what I'm putting energy into, where I'm getting things back from, and focusing my energy on the things that are more important. So sometimes one class, like a general elective, might not be the most relevant thing, and in that case, extracurricular activity that I'm really passionate about could be a better use of my time. Also identifying after college, like what skills and organizations are going to be important to me, and evaluating kind of how I can fit these things into my life outside of the academic setting. So my solutions for senior year, in terms of my academics and my career, I'm going to be finishing my undergraduate degree the end of next semester, and also I'll be cutting back on activities since a lot of them expire at the end of the spring semester. But as I'm looking for a job, I can start to really focus on the classes that are relevant to what I'm doing. So say that I get a job in like product development, then my design classes are going to be really important for the engineering design courses, whereas some of my other like principles of econ may not be as important. Additionally, the activities that I'm doing, I'm definitely going to honor the commitments that I have, which are 3 big ones, but eliminating all of the smaller commitments so that way I can help encourage younger girls to also grow, and I'm not going to be have the same accountability in terms of the time commitment and kind of little tasks that don't really benefit me in the long run. So I'll still be able to support the organizations that I really care about without compromising my time or academics. So thank you, and feel free to comment below with any questions.